I was writing my book, and it came across a challenge because I couldn't continue writing it because apparently my computer has a virus or something, and it's making it really difficult to continue forward. But essentially the book was going to be about communist objectivism. Now that's going to make a lot of people butthurt, and I'm hoping that it will. It's not called communist objectivism. It isn't even called objectivism or communism. It is simply the realization of objectivism in left-wing politics. Ayn Rand was a psychopath. I know this, you know this, we all know this. She had a huge boner for a fucking serial killer, and she was a complete and total psychotic bitch. But being a crazy, despicable person does not mean you are correct. It just means you're a despicable person, and you should die. But Ayn Rand did get some elements right. She went completely off base. And I'm not going to go into all the details there. What I'm just going to tell you is sociopaths know something that the average human being does not. It doesn't make them good people, it just makes them smarter people. And they choose to use their intelligence for themselves and for their own selfish ambitions, which isn't too smart of them. There are varying degrees of intelligence, and there are methods you use those intelligences either intelligently or not. Sociopaths are an evolutionary dead end. That's what I'm trying to get across in my book, and that's what I'm getting across to you here now. Sociopaths do have something to contribute as far as human intelligence is concerned, but then they stop there. They halt completely at selfish gratification. And unfortunately, the only way we're going to move forward is to think like a sociopath, but not in the sense of being a sociopath. We have to look at the world rationally, objectively, and pretty brutally, but not with the same incentive of personal gain, or that my needs come first, or that, the world revolves around me, and I have entitlement over treating people like shit because of my property. That's moderator logic. What I'm saying here is, because some people want to argue that I'm an absolutist. I've heard this before in private messages and things, where they think I'm a moral absolute, like Calvinism and Christianity. The difference between absolutes and objectivity is absolutes do not believe in moral dilemmas. To them, lying is wrong. Period. There's never, ever a good reason to lie. Whereas an objectivist will say that given different situations, you may be entitled to lie, it might be necessary to lie, lying might be for the greater good. So it's suffice to say objectivists are a combination of absolutists and pragmatists. They're pragmatic about their absolute morality. They're not subjectivists because they do not say that right and wrong simply don't exist. They're interpreted by individual opinion. No. What they're saying is there is right and wrong. There is an element to right and wrong. There is a methodology to right and wrong that exists in the universe and makes the world go round. Everything functions based off moral principles, but that it is not set in stone. It is not frozen in solid mass and simply you cannot argue it. It is something that is ever motioning. It is something that moves and vibrates and clashes and changes. Moral objectivism is suggesting that good and evil exist always in a river, in waves, I guess you could put it. I don't know how else to explain this other than imagining every thought, every action, good and evil, is just another basic form of physics. It's just another fluctuation of neurons and atoms and all that bullshit. I don't need to go into wordy, verbose details about it because it's unnecessary. The point is, good and evil exist, but not in the absolute black and white case by case. I want to say case by case basis, but no. It's not so absolute. It's not so literal. But good and evil do exist. And you have to do what is most rationally right for you at the time in order to pursue good and not let evil win. So what I was trying to get across in my book is that we have to live our lives in accordance to what's going on now, which does mean being kind of selfish, but not selfish in the sense of what's mine is mine, what's yours will be mine soon, because that's the capitalist mentality. The capitalist mentality isn't to respect other people for their rights or for their property, it's to undermine them, and to use what you have against them in order to get more yourself. That's not what I'm trying to get across here. What I'm trying to get across is that people are generally wicked, despicable, and stupid. They're also very predictable, and if you know this, you can manipulate those circumstances for a greater cause. It is up to you to use your experiences in this life to change the world for the better. And that's it. I don't know how to change it for the better. I'm not going to tell you how to change it for the better. I'm just telling you that that is your moral duty in life. Because what else is there? There is no other reason to exist but for the principality of a better tomorrow. You do not exist for love. You do not exist for gratification. You do not exist for stimulation. These are distractions. These are illusions. The only thing that matters is the principle. That's all life is. It's just principles. There are bad principles and there are good principles. Most people are living in accordance to bad principles, and that's why they are distracted. That's why they are tied up in the sex and debauchery and lying and killing and war and violence and oppression and capital ownership, because that is all this world is. And most hardcore Christians agree with me. Most real Christians, not this neo-pagan, watered-down bullshit, believe that this world belongs to the devil. That when Lucifer fell from heaven, he did not go to hell, he fell to earth. And that by falling to earth, he has influenced the world ever since and twisted it and corrupted it to his will, to his design. Lucifer, or Satan, or whatever you want to call it, is king of this world. And his demons are in all kinds of shapes and sizes. A lot of times, if you look into the esoteric books, like the Book of Enoch, demons come in the form of bacteria and viruses. They are sentient beings that exist on a microscopic level, and I can see that happening. That's why in the old days they used to repel evil spirits with salt and sterilins, because there is a combination of a living organism and demonic entity. They exist to consume and to be evil, to destroy, to kill, to make you suffer. That is their nature. That is, good and evil has a natural instinct. It has a natural vibration. It is part of the biology of everything. So, it's not unusual to me that in the old days, you used to describe this as spirits and demons or whatever. That was the best way that at the time they could describe it. But it's always the same basic principle. Sentient beings exist either for good or for evil. And this idea that somehow God is controlling this world and people's actions and has this big plan set up is ridiculous. All the bad that happens in the world would not happen if God was the predominant force. So in this regard, I'm not Christian. I'm more Gnostic. Gnostics believe that a generally evil God is dominant, and that the good gods are rebelling. Luciferians could qualify for this, but I don't quite think so, because I've met Luciferians, and they are disgusting people. So, they are just demonic worshippers. They worship the wrong ideas, and if it were up to me, they would all be put in an Iron Maiden. So, what I'm getting across here is that evil is the predominant force in this universe. But there is something even more dominant than evil, and that's predictability. Shit repeats itself over and over again. People are complacent. People are cooperative. This world, besides being evil, is also very repetitive and very organized. Everything has an explanation, or at least tries to have an explanation. As much as scientists want to think that chaos is what created everything, and that spontaneous order is what happens, and just enough chaos will breed a line and some kind of organization. No. Chaos is minimal. If you ever play Dungeons&Dragons, there is the 9 alignment spectrum. And the way you can look at this world is lawful-evil alignment. It's very organized. People generally do as they're told. It's very predictable, and you can pretty much guarantee what's going to happen time after time if you're either mathematically inclined or just aware enough to look around you and look at your surroundings and mesmerize things. So it's a very predictable universe. So it's lawful. And it's also a very cruel, very barbaric universe that revels in pain and tyranny and control and you know, just an evil sex and everything. So it's lawful evil. And that's it. You know, I don't know if there exists a dimension beyond this one. I don't know if it's just the planet Earth that is lawful evil or if it's other worlds too. But I'm saying that is what we live in now. That is our primary alignment, is lawful evil alignment. And if you want that to be different, if you don't want to live in a lawful evil alignment world, you're going to have to do something. I don't care what you do, just something. Because as far as I'm concerned, even chaotic evil alignment would be better. Because how can evil be the predominant force in a society that is chaotic, that is spontaneous, that does whatever the fuck it wants to? Evil would not be able to flourish and succeed at the rate that it does if everyone was a fucking rapist and serial killer. It would be impossible to monopolize any institution. Nature might be considered chaotic evil. The animals that crawl in the dirt and eat each other and grab the eggs of birds and, you know, eat the babies and rape each other and shit, that could be chaotic evil because they're just so impulsive and vicious and they care nothing of anyone that, you know, it's a balance. And maybe that's what Ayn Rand was trying to get at, but I sincerely doubt it. Because if she would have just said so. And you know, the free market will not guarantee that. There is no competitive edge in the free market. The free market does not exist for businesses to compete. It exists for employees to compete, for the slaves to compete. So, while they grow in multitude, leeching off your hard work, they are only going to monopolize the institutions more and control the private sector more, and things are going to get evil and more predictable. I probably have to make a part 2 because this video's been kind of jumbled up. I'm kind of slurring here because I did not plan to make this video. I'm still pretty pissed off about not being able to continue my book. So that's it, I guess.